Welcome to the Hot Rod Builders panel from the recent SEMA Show in Las Vegas, where you'll hear from some of the industry's top builders. Join us as we listen to insights from Bobby Alloway, renowned industry judge and owner of Alloway's Hot Rods, celebrity builder and host Dave Kindig, owner of Kindig It Designs, award-winning builder Troy Trepanier, owner of Rad Rides by Troy, custom car builder Jesse Barrett, owner of Blue Sky Performance and Restorations, and the legendary Chip Foose himself, owner of Foose Design. The panel will be expertly moderated by Rick Love, president of Vintage Air. From how they got their first start to helpful tips inside the shop, whether it's running the finances or hiring the right people, these builders covered it all.
I'm Dave Kindig, owner of Kindig It Designs, Salt Lake City, Utah. I've been in the industry for quite some time. My beginnings were Volkswagen, so I was very passionate about trying to have the lowest, coolest, brightest color back in the day, Volkswagen. And I snowballed into other vehicles, and pretty soon just my renderings kind of got me noticed. Self-taught drawing since I was a little kid. Learned from mom. She actually didn't draw cars. She used to draw animals and landscapes. But I was just always very passionate about it, and I've lived my life as a what if. What if I just went for whatever it was I put my mind to and set my goals, and it's worked out. I actually knew Bobby, and Rick, and Troy, Chip, back when they worked for Boyd originally, and what was really cool is I've been in the industry from HPC, Performance Coatings, and so Bobby actually let me sit in his the little roadster with the flames on.
I have a picture of it, if you ever want to see it.
I look like I'm 12 years old. I didn't know the picture existed. We were at Barrett Jackson a couple of years back, and I'm sitting there talking to a client, and I get a text, and it's Bobby, and I hadn't heard from Bobby for a minute, and I look at the picture, and it's me at 21 years old. Zero facial hair. I could grow.
No, there was a little bit.
Oh, I did have a little. I had like 4 hairs sticking out of the bottom of my head, about a half an inch long. And so anyway, long story short, I did a lot of stuff back when Troy was doing Humongous, the Rumbler, Chicane. I mean, I just remember all the cars, and I just always thought it was so cool. He had done a car called the Predator, and he'd used some Dodge neon headlights and made some really cool buckets. And I was like, hey, Troy, I'm doing this Vintage Volkswagen. He actually sent me the molds, and I never did anything with them. I don't remember what I did. I thought I said that. I apologize. If anybody wants to buy those. And then Chip, always been a big fan of Chip, even back when he was with Boyd. I remember being at Pleasanton Good Guys, and I had my shag wagon in Colorado Customs booth. And I remember leaving there, going back to the hotel in Pleasanton, and this badass BMW pulls up next to me, big body, two-door, and it's Chip, he's got his window down. Yeah! So, just, and of course, just a big fan of all these guys across the board. So, Rick, again, have a long history with him back from the Jack Chisholm era, and it's just been a life. Life's been good, 26 years, and now a manufacturer of the CF1 program, as well as the hot rods we're still building, and property value went up a little bit, so we're good.
I'm Troy from Rad Rides, and believe it or not, Bobby, I was an athlete in high school. And my dad had an automotive shop, and my grandfather was the guy in town who needed something well to go see Johnny. He was a union pipe fitter, so my grandfather brainwashed me in a one-car garage as a young guy trying to make everything perfect, and I kind of learned tearing apart junk engines and stuff at my dad's just general automotive shop during the day, and went right from high school and just started working as a mechanic for him. And then my grandfather blew up a '66 Chevelle that he bought brand new, and that's what kind of kick-started it. So we started messing with that. And I just kind of got in the right place at the right time early on. I was a young guy in it. My mom and dad did it with me, and I was here in 1990 the first time at SEMA. I drove my '60 Chevy cross country with Great Baskerville from Mont. I was 4. Bobby was 50. But so I got a really good start. Greg helped me a lot, and I met Chip here in '90, and so it was good. Jack Chisholm, did a lot of power tours with Jack in the early days, and just being in the right place at the right time really helped, and just kind of kept snowballing, and we got a good shop. My one son Jack, we had little parts thing we do together. He ships out of Florida, and my youngest son Luke, we have a refinishing business now that he does powder coating and sandblasting. So I kind of got my 2 boys are helping, and got a lot of good employees, and just great memories. Me and Bobby have been buddies for forever, and we share, well, a lot of us share customers too, which is kind of interesting. A lot of people don't know that, but we all, I mean, pretty much all of us up here share customers together, so that's a nice thing. But it's been good, and Rick's been couldn't be a better face for Jack and Vintage Air at the same time. I mean, it's
a pretty bad thing calling it a face. I don't know.
front man, how's that? They're really good, and my wife's here somewhere. She's the only reason I ever made any money, so that's right. But anyway, that's it.
All right, I guess I'm the new guy here. Jesse Barrett from Blue Sky Performance in Andover, New Jersey. Grew up loving cars ever since I was in 2nd grade. Well, I wanted a custom 92 Mustang in 2nd grade, and I wanted to be a truck driver. Well, not a truck driver, but I started in a collision shop. I knew I wanted to work on cars when I was a kid. It was just what I wanted to do. My family wasn't into it. They understood it. My dad fought me on the idea of working for myself in the automotive industry. He thought it was a hobby, and I just grew up watching him on TV, Dave on TV, and I just knew that I wanted to pursue a career. I knew that I wanted to be an owner of a shop. In 2009, I became an employee at a restoration shop, not really doing much of anything. I was ready to leave, general manager, kick the bucket, and I got the opportunity to become a manager. And then I got my business partner the job. He handles the mechanical stuff. I do body, fab. And we took over in 2015, so we just celebrated 10 years. And we're just honored to be here. It's unbelievable to be sitting with 4 pillars of the industry, 5 including Rick, and I'm just constantly blown away about how inviting this industry is. For many, many years, I kind of felt like I was on the outside looking in, and every step of the way, first time we had a car here was 2019, and from there on out, like, the industry has just always embraced us with open arms. So that's, now I'm here, so we're having fun. Love this industry.
Cool. Well, my voice is about gone, so I apologize for that.
It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, I just started here, but I was a little bit crazy getting here. But as far as my career, wow. You know, I'm just going to say the thing that I love about this industry is the fact that I don't look at everybody as competition. I look at everybody else that does this as a potential best friend, because they have the same passion I do, and why not share it? And these are some of my best friends that are up here right now. And my first memories are Gene Winfield's shop, if you know who Gene is. He had AMT. Well, my father was his shop foreman and painter. So all those famous Gene Winfield paint jobs, the blended candy paint jobs, that was my dad's work. My dad left Gene in the late 60s and started his own shop. So 1969 is when I started hanging out in my dad's shop. And at 9 years old, I started painting. And I always thought that, you know, my dad builds hot rods, but I want to go to Art Center College of Design, and I'm going to design for an OEM. That was my dream. And I thought, I'll always build hot rods on the side. Well, I went to Art Center. My senior project was a Chrysler-sponsored project where I designed a Prowler for Chrysler. To say that I designed a Prowler was actually a slap in the face to all the engineers and designers that actually built the real car. But my design and model was definitely the inspiration for it. And it was a huge door opener. When I graduated, I had 14 different job offers to go to an automotive company. But I had worked for a small design group in Santa Barbara, California, and they paid for me to go through Art Center. And I promised them that I would go back and work there for 3 years after I graduated. So I did that. But Boyd Guidington had seen the Prowler model that I had done, and he asked me to start doing work for him. So while I was working at this design group after I graduated, I started working for Boyd. And I was doing between 30 and 50 hours a week of just side work for Boyd, and I was absolutely loving it. My boss comes to me one day, and he says, hey, he says, when you're done with this project you're on, I don't have anything for you for about 6 months. Can you bring Boyd's work in, and we'll bill him for that? And I said, well, there's a little bit of an issue there. What's that? I don't bill Boyd. I was working an average of 30 to 50 hours a week, but it was just my hobby. And if I needed wheels, it was a trade. Boyd would give me wheels. And so he says, well, can you fund something for 6 months while we wait for this project? So I had done some work at Ford Motor Company, and I called Andy Jacobson, and he made me an offer to go there. And then I talked to, Jay Mays, who was the head of the Volkswagen studio at the time. He called me and said, hey, I hear you're going to Ford. And I said, yeah, but it's only for 6 months. He says, well, I'm putting a team together. We're going to redo, this is, of course, is in 1992. He says, I'm putting a team together to redesign the Beetle, and I want you on the team. I said, well, that'd be fun. And I'm thinking, do I go to Ford or do I go to Volkswagen? And I called Boyd and said, hey, I've got an opportunity. I'm either going to go to Ford or going to Volkswagen for 6 months. So we need to get another designer involved, because if I'm gone, I'm not going to be able to finish up these projects for you. He says, come down and see me. So I drove down there from Santa Barbara to Stanton, California. It's about an hour and a half. Well, then it was an hour and a half. Now it's about 3 hours of traffic. But I went down there and he made me a better offer than both Ford and Volkswagen. I thought, wow, this would be really cool. Now, like I said earlier, I always thought that I would go to work for an OEM. And I ended up doing that. I did a professional intern. And the first day there, I knew that I didn't want to do that anymore. And the reason I say that is, I got in there and they told me where I needed to go to get all my art supplies and come back to my cubicle where I would do my drawings. And I went down there, I ordered all my art supplies, and the guy puts everything in a box. And I pick it up and I start to walk away. And now, working for my father, working for Boyd, you're responsible for what you need to get done, and your job is to make money for your boss. Well, I pick up this box and I start to walk away, and the guy says, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go back and draw. He says, well, you can't carry that box. And I laughed. I said, it's not that heavy. He says, no. You're new here, aren't you? I said, yeah. He says, well, that's a union job. You can only carry what you can carry with one hand. I thought, wow, okay. So I picked up a couple things and I went back to my studio and I waited about 45 minutes for my stuff to get there. But I'm sitting in my cubicle and the guy next to me was taking his pencil sharpener apart. And then he's filing on parts and then he's putting it back together. My art supply showed up about 45 minutes later and I started drawing. But I watched this guy next to me for 3 days. Take his pencil sharpener apart, put it back together, take it apart, put it back together. He's working on it. And then I hear him go, yeah, I did it. And his name was David. I said, David, what'd you do? He says, watch this. He takes his pencil and puts it in the sharpener and just goes, he says, I balanced it. It doesn't shake anymore. Wow, I gotta get out of here.
Everybody has, I know there'll be some questions later, but I think one of the most important things to talk about is how do you all, because when you're building a car, it's not a quick process for anybody here. So kind of talk about how you approach, because y'all get approached by a lot of people about building a car for them. So kind of talk us through how you determine whether one of these guys is going to be a customer you want to work with or not. We start with you, with senior member. But your boss not here, you're the senior member now.
First off, I meet with the customer first, because you're married to them for a couple of years. So if I can't get along with the customer, then I really don't need to build a car. And the customer needs to. He came to me for a certain reason, and hopefully it was the style of car that I built. And if it's not the style of car that I build, then he's come to the wrong person, because I can't do what Dave does, or Troy, or Chip. We've all got our own little fling, and if I can't get along with the customer, I'm not going to do it. And I did that I've tried to tell the young guys that too, and you can ask my wife, I did cars for myself for the longest. Because I didn't want to work for it just for the money. I wanted to work for it for the sport, and when my customers are my friends, as everybody knows me here, usually my customers are all here with me, and we run together, and it's just it makes work a whole lot easier when you can get along and you know what they want, and it's just, don't do it. So the customer isn't always right sometimes. He thinks that he knows what he wants. But if you know in the beginning that what he's saying he wants is not going to work out in the end, don't do it, because everybody remembers the end. They never remember the beginning. They always remember what the end is. So it's your job to try to educate them on what they want, and basically. And I've been very fortunate with my guys. So, and then you get repeat business. And repeat business is freaking wonderful because you already know them.
Well, Bobby already answered the question that I would have. Exactly. First and foremost, the industry I think that we're in, we're selling stuff that's really expensive that nobody really needs. And so you have to have the right person that is going to be in that completely with you 100%, do or die, and make sure that the vehicle is going to start and finish relatively on a good schedule so you don't burn out. If it's not something that I'm really passionate about building right now, I've got plenty of cars in the wings that I can pull in at any time, but if I really, really wanted to do those, they would already be in my shop. I've got 43 employees, 27,000 square feet. We do all aspects in one place, and our typical build time is about 12 months. So I really have to be excited about the project, and I need to really have a good relationship with the person too, because just like you said, we're in this together, and it's my job to build the highest quality, the most outstanding design and fit and finish, and more importantly, the customer that's paying for it has to like it. And then when you do that, the focus is on the art, not about the money. If you're doing a good job on the art, you'll get paid. And that's, for 26 years has really worked out for us. So along the same lines, I think that's very important, that you have to have a good relationship with that person, and also the industry. The industry being able to back parts and stuff. I mean, there's just you hate to have a very wealthy guy driving a really expensive car sitting on the side of the road. They're not happy when that happens.
Or their wives.
Or their wives. So,
43 employees.
Yeah, I heard that. I got two.
you see these wrinkles?
I got 7. And, ooh,
Troy, you didn't have 43 people in his county.
I know, I was
not even come.
obviously, yeah, but I was spoiled a little bit. My first big customer was George Poteet, which was a legend in our industry, what he did for guys like me and manufacturers and everything. So that was pretty good, but I ventured out, and you got to kind of learn the hard way a few times. I think we all have, like they're saying, picking the right guy, and sometimes you get caught up in who they are, and that's the wrong thing most of the time. So we kind of, once you cut your teeth on that, my dad was good at weeding guys out, but we went through a few of them, and then you kind of get to where it almost builds itself, the template of our customer. It's a guy that, number one, has been hands-on his whole life. That's the key. They got to understand why they're at your shop. Because I don't want to, in the beginning, you kind of take what you can get, but as you get doing it longer, you want it to be more enjoyable, and you want to just go there and do what you do. You don't want to have to educate somebody all day. And by having somebody that knows why they're there, and it's a guy that's hands-on, they may not do as much anymore, but they've been hands-on their whole life, and they understand cars, and that's the bigger thing. Because, like they said, you are married to them, and man, when you're there killing yourself, and we've all been through it, and the customer's not really working out, it's miserable. But the one thing is, you only have one time for the first time. There's first impression once only. I mean, I've been so many times to SEMA, and I'm sure these guys have too, where the customer kind of falling short at the end, but you've committed to being in somebody's booth here, so you're not going to stand there and make excuses all the time. So you do whatever it takes to get it right, and eventually it pays off. And it takes a while sometimes, but it's a tricky thing picking customers and understanding them. But hands-on, if they're hands-on, it's usually pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. And then you have to be a little self-reflective too. they're spot on, all three of these guys, but sometimes I will get overly excited, and I'll start, you could almost scare a customer away by getting, just shoving too much information at once, so don't get too excited, because a lot of these guys out here don't understand what it takes to build a good car these days, and they have this long list of stuff, and I'm like, this guy wants this, I want to do that, and then to find out they don't want to pay more than 6 figures, and it just pulls the wind out of your sails, and just don't get overly excited. That's just something I've learned over the last 10 years of being in business for myself, is just take your time, patience, make sure that customer's not pushing you to do something quicker, do it at your pace, be realistic with time frames, and just don't kill yourself. Like he was saying, if you committed with a booth here at SEMA, sure, you got to get it done. You can't tell them all the customer's not going to pay his final bill. That's a risk you take in business for yourself, but just be patient. Make sure that customer understands patience, because these cars take years to build.
The hardest thing to say in the beginning is no, and it's the easiest to say as you do it longer is it's easy to say. Okay, no, thank you.
For me, it's kind of the same thing that Bobby said. It's, you need to get to know that person and why they want you to build a car. And you're not only building a car, but you are building this relationship. And hopefully you're still friends at the end of the project, because the people are more important than the car. And that leads to the other thing that Bobby said is repeat customers. Where you're building more than one car for somebody. And I've had some amazing customers that are better friends to this day. And the other thing is that I never want to build a car for somebody that's never built a car yet, because they don't know what to expect. So tell them to go have a car built somewhere else. Once they've had that experience, come over and have a good one with you.
Yeah, that's for sure. A lot of people ask Bob George, because he was kind of, all these guys know, but he was kind of reserved, but soft-spoken sort of man, and they just thought he had a bunch of money and didn't know nothing. But he never had to go to plumbing until he went to college, and this guy had earned every bit of it. And talk about friendships, he spoke on my dad's funeral. I mean, that's what I thought of that guy. So that's when you get them guys, it's fun. It's not a job anymore.
It's all about that relationship. And you all have talked before about that, once you have that relationship established with that customer there, then all of a sudden, as the car is coming together, this guy's found a new steering wheel somewhere in an ad or seen it on Instagram. This is not going to go with the car you're building. It's a whole lot easier to convey that when you've got a good relationship with them.
Well, you can put all the best parts in the world on one car, and it can be the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life. Sometimes it ain't the best part, it's the part that should go on the car. I don't know, my guys, I'm real fortunate with the guys that I've got, because they're all car people, like Troy said, and we're all friends, because we're doing something that they don't have to have, that's for sure, and we're fortunate just to get to do it.
So once you get your customer on board, then how does your build process work? How do you all set up your build process going forward?
Building.
Starts with oil.
I mean, I don't think I've ever gave anybody a timeline, I don't think I've ever gave anybody a price.
But you get prepared.
I do. A lot of times we'll do that, and if I knew Chip a little bit better, he could do some today, but change, it costs money to change, and if you know what you're doing to start out with, we'll pick color, we'll pick interior, motor, wheels, blah, and then we don't talk about changing anything after that, because bill will go quicker, and if you change something at the end, it seems like it looks like you know that people know that you changed it, because it doesn't go with the flow of the car. So, and hopefully they pick black, and then we don't have a problem.
I was going to get that.
Big block for carburetors, we don't have a problem with that. Big tires on the back, we're good.
Yeah. You've got a combination that's it's a winning combination that works quite well. Kind of the same thing for me. Once we figure out that we're going to build a car together, having a conversation, kind of finding out what kind of colors they like, what kind of stance, what kind of other vehicles maybe have stood out to them. A lot of times it'll give you kind of an idea of what their level of pain that they're willing to take on the build, which gets it really is a lot more exciting for me when we start talking about making more changes. I like to play off of stuff that's very classic line, but adding a smoother finish to it, better fit and finish, changing the body style lines, gaps being perfected, drivetrain obviously being done, contrast interior to exterior. And so, once we have all that kind of going, within 5 minutes, I'm already driving that car up and down the street that I've talked about to the client, and then having the opportunity and the ability to go put a rendering together so they can visually see what the car's going to look like. As soon as they get that, you see the big smile, and
But David, if you can't see the car in your mind's eye, it's hard to build the car.
it really is.
Because as a builder, you got to be able to see the car in your mind before you can build the car.
Exactly.
The rendering is more for the customer than it is for you.
Well, the rendering actually is for me a lot of times too, because it's funny, is if I'm completely detached from the shop at the moment or whatever, I can tell you every last thing I put together for that car just off the top of my head, because I've built it in my head. And for me, it was always faster to do that. I had plastic model cars, Legos, Hot Wheels, but it was always so much faster for me to just draw. And I learned perspective from Lego instructions because it has a vanishing point. And I remember just looking at all kinds of magazines and automotive encyclopedias and just kind of getting my education, things that stood out to me that I liked and things that I thought were weird and I didn't want to ever do. And so I've been able to just kind of, they don't call it copy, they call it research in our industry. And I've done a lot of research with these guys around here. It's just, when somebody has a style that stands out to you, and that a lot of times you can adapt it to your own taste and style, and then of course sell that to the client. So I think that the visual is by far, I think, one of the most important things you want to do.
It's a little different as it goes on. I think in the beginning stages, for a first customer, they're all a little different. As we do the repeat customers, obviously you know how to work for them, so it's much more enjoyable for most of them. We brought a 36 out here, fenderless Roadster that we built. That was a customer that we built a Ritter car for back in the day, a 36, and we sat with Ross and we're talking. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna do a 36 Ford." I'm like, Adam, we're like, gosh, that other one, right? And then Adam and him kind of looked at each other together. About a fenderless one, Ford never made that. So that project kind of came along that way. We don't do a lot of renderings. Like Adam did just a side profile pencil sketch. And a lot of the stuff, the way we do it's a little different. Maybe in they're the same way. We get to a certain point, you got to kind of step back and look at the car and let it tell you what it wants a little bit. Because some stuff's forced, so we kind of just step back and let it tell you a little bit what it wants when you get to that certain stage. Maybe it's on the ground the first time after you built the body or whatever. A lot of decisions to be made there, but the more you work with the customer, obviously, again and again, it's easier. Some are more involved and some are not. Like Ross is a huge car guy, but we talked about that base idea, and then he knew why he was at our shop and trusted us, and we made every decision from there on out. And we do a lot of work for West Rydell, which Chip has also over the years, and he's the guy that building artsy cars for. You're cutting 40s cars that most people don't really study. He's very involved. I mean, you'll talk about garnish moldings for 2 days, but it's very important on the proportions and everything. So that's a tough part to build. Certain shops, I mean, like Bobby would say, he doesn't build what we build, and I don't know what he builds, that kind of thing. And those are tricky parts. So each customer is a little different. That's half the challenge of working with them. And that we were fortunate to with George go off Bonneville. That's been half our business by the last 20 years. So that's kind of its own thing. That's a little different game out there, but right by Dave's house there. But so it's good customers, a lot of different avenues, but just being honest is the key. I mean, there's so many stories now on the internet, all this stuff, and just doing a good job of being honest gets overlooked a lot sometimes. So that's why I judge everybody like just these guys, that don't know a lot, have they had repeat customers that we talked about a few minutes ago. That's usually the number one thing, if they're being honest, if they've got repeat customers. You'll see a lot of shops don't have repeat customers. So.
Yeah, I mean, early on in the process, I tell people, hey, I'm not the gunslinger type of builder. we try to tell them, like, let's answer as many questions now. Like Bobby was saying, try to, and Dave was saying, build the car before it's even touched. Because the customer's also going to spend probably $100,000 on parts, and the car's not going to be touched for 6, 7, 8 year and a half, and you just have to kind of explain that. And in that time period of the wait for the lead time, I try to keep it exciting for the customer. Get renderings going, color choices, all those parts choices, stylistic choices could be made before you start working on the car, but the parts purchases, the part selection, what chassis you're going to do, what wheels are stylistic, but like the actual main components of the car, you want to get up front and then stylistically fill in that lead time, because it keeps that customer kind of excited about it. They don't burn out just from time. They may just say, I'm just not interested. Let's go on to the next shiny thing. So try to keep that excitement. Even though I told you not to get too excited, try to keep that excitement going. It's a dance you kind of got to play.
As Wes Rydell said, it's just as expensive to build an ugly car as it is a beautiful car. So get a designer involved and know where you're going. And I've always told the guys in the shop, the drawing is not the Bible. The drawing is just the theme where we're going. But when you're working on the car, and you're just roughing things in, you might just be using cardboard and masking tape to look at something. That's where you make your final decisions, so that you're not having to change sheet metal work that's already been done. Build it as quick as you can and look at it. If it's a theme of what the sketch is, then make those final decisions before you get into the middle. But by getting a designer involved and having those sketches and knowing before you go there what motor, what transmission, what gauges, what steering wheel, what seats, figure all that out before you start ordering pieces. I've had customers that they come to you with a car and they've got all these parts. Yeah, here's what I want. And you're building the car, and then they're bringing, here's another set of seats. Well, we already built all your brackets. Oh, yeah, I want this. And then it starts to snowball. So make those decisions, lock them in, and stay with it. You're going to learn from that project. And another friend of mine, Larry Erickson, told me one time, he says, don't try to hit a home run every time you come back. Just swing. Make it happen, go on to the next one, and learn from it.
Speaking of learning, how has, everybody been in business for quite a while now, how is technology, how is that changing what you do now?
I mean, it has. I mean, it's some of the stuff when we first started, they had wooden wheels, now they have rubber wheels, so that helps a whole lot. Machine making some parts, and then the 3D printing is actually, and we do some of that. I mean, I don't do it in-house. I sub it out because I can't keep the machine running the whole time, so it's not feasibly possible for me to have it all the time. So I've got a machine shop down the street that does good stuff for us, and it is making things a lot easier. Yeah, so.
You prototype things
I can do both.
prototype things.
I guess so.
Technology's certainly come a long way for my shop in the last 26 years. I remember when I first got started, I had a borrowed body hammer from my father-in-law, Dick. I had a small bench that I used so I could reach my 8-foot ceilings when I remodeled my first house. And if you flipped it over, it was like a picnic bench. And the wood, I don't know what the hell happened, but it was super hard. And I could actually use the dolly on the top of that bench to roll the metal almost like an English roll, because I didn't have an English roll, I didn't have the money. And so I had very, very slow beginnings in that. I remember sweating for $7,000 to buy a paint booth. It was a cross-traffic, it was a legal spot to paint, literally. And fast forward, now, I mean, we've got a Haas on its way. We have a very large Haas already in-house. We have 2-foot all CNCs. Stratus Simpson 450 and 370. We've got a Fair 3D scanner. It's nicer than the one that NASA had for about cheap for you. We use that a lot. CamMaster 3-axis CNC router table. We've got English wheels all over the place in the shop. Bead rollers, every die you can imagine. We make our own dies for Polmax, the Powell hammer, Torchmate, and then we're so busy right now. I've got 4 seats in SolidWorks and 1 Geomagic, and we're still so busy. I still hand render the wheels, and I send them to Sean and Eva and have them build them. Even though we're capable of building the wheels in-house now, we're just still too busy. We make all of our 3D printed patterns for the sand casting aluminum parts for the CF1s. The foundry is just out west of us. We have extrusions we use for interior trim pieces, exterior trim pieces that are malleable. We can triple plate chrome that stuff at Ogden Chrome. Developing and making our own paint line now, which has been really very rewarding. It's been really cool to have one classic. We've got 48 colors right now available all over the world and growing. So it's definitely snowballed, but it's made it a lot easier to be creative and be able to just imagine whatever you want to do and just go ahead and do it.
I always started out with, what was it, well-up English wheel, and you always want the better cast one, you know, that's 100 years old and all that. Eventually you get to that. We have all the technology. I buy it all, I understand it all, but I just take well and build chassis. You gotta get a good team around you. That makes a big difference. And our biggest thing that we kind of talk about a lot is, I guess it depends what style of car you're building, but like for example, the 36 that we brought here, we built everything with the tires and the engine block, and we used a lot of technology, but you can't let that technology drive the design. Hopefully when you walk up to it and look at it, you don't look at every piece and say, oh, this is built, this is that. And hopefully it's finished the right way, it has the right shape, that it kind of plays off of the vehicle that you're building. So we try to really pay attention to not let, let that technology, you can walk up and just say, oh yeah, they did it this way, because it's just so apparent.
Yeah, we in-house, we don't really have any of the latest, greatest technology, but through our years in business, we've gathered through our networking is other businesses that can do something. So 3D scanning is huge. I think everybody in this room knows that 3D scanning is kind of the way the industry is going for fit and finish reasons. So we've gathered a team of outside subcontracted services that we use to come in and fill that kind of void we have in the shop, so that we don't have to burden ourselves with the training, the financial burden of having to buy the equipment and operating that equipment after you've bought it and ripped it open and thought it was cool to use. So I think it just comes down to networking, finding that network of other companies, like-minded companies that you can vibe with. Same as finding a good customer, you're going to find other good companies that work well with you. And so that's kind of how we've decided to use the latest and greatest technologies, because we're just hot rodders at the end of the day, and some of that latest technology kind of confuses me. So
that's smart though. You know, when you go to a lot of shops and you see all that stuff in there, but you don't know how to use it. It seemed like a very simple machine, but like back when Polmax crazy 25 years ago, everybody had a flame that's trying to use it.
I don't even know that you use Microsoft Word.
They look, they were using them, so it's wow.
Do you know how to use it?
Yeah.
I think technology has allowed this industry to explode, because you can build so many parts that if you weren't a super talented craftsman, you could never do. And I have been lucky and blessed to have worked with some of the greatest craftsmen in the world, and I've been spoiled. One of them being Marcel Delay, who built a lot of the bodies that we did when I was at Boyd's, and he gave me a piece of technology. It's a log. I call it my computer because that's where I log on, and you can handle any shape you want in that thing. But today, you can design a car and have an aluminum skin made up with a computer. Brian Fuller just had a seminar, brought a bunch of guys together, and we put a body together, and but I still beat that thing with a 2x4, put it in the shape where we needed to move it. You can't get rid of old world craftsmanship, but to blend them both together, you're unlimited what you can do.
But you don't have to have it all. Jesse, I think it's a great point for some of the guys starting out in the shops and all that. You don't have to have every piece of latest technology. There's guys out there that'll do that you can, if you need them.
We just restored a set of phone booths, Chinese phone booths from a grocery store that are iconic to our area. And I can sand, I can strip down the cabinets fine, but they had these crazy ornate oriental tops. And we linked up with a local guy, Reversion Raceworks, and he 3D scanned it, and he worked, and then he subbed out all the laser cutting to Send, Oshcut. So it was basically a culmination of 4 or 5 different companies coming together to make a product that is, otherwise it would have taken me forever, and it wouldn't have come out nice and beautiful.
Oddest project you've ever done for a customer?
We restored golf course with ball finders, pickers, all this stuff, and painted them all 69 Camaro with other orange. It was a real good, one of my first customers, and he owned a big golf course. He wanted this stuff done, you know, when you first start, you have to do everything, and we did every stitch of this golf course equipment. We did it all. He let me pick the color, so.
Was it black?
No, we couldn't do black, we did orange. We did Tennessee orange, but anyway, that was probably it. And it was golf course, but it wasn't on
The oddest one I did was a bit earlier on. A company by the name of Uglies. They were an underwear company, almost like Boxer Joe, but on these boxers you could buy, had hundreds of different patterns. Each panel was a different wild material. And they had bought the very first black PT Cruiser in Utah. And it was only about a block or two away from my shop. And we brought it down from the Chrysler dealership. We took the entire car apart, every panel in that car. I hand painted the moon over palm trees, looking over the ocean, black and yellow checkers, different polka dots and stuff, and we did the logo on it, and it was the Uglies PT Cruiser. And they took that all over the place, a lot of hand painted sections of it as well, and they took it all over the place promoting their company. So it was,
They're a repeat customer?
no, they only, just the ones that those are underwear. Big enough deal.
But they didn't offer a trade-out.
No, but they did give me a lot of underwear. I looked sharp for quite some time. If you were in the house with close. So yeah, that was probably one of the funner and weirder ones.
We took an electric golf cart, I'm not sorry, not a golf cart, an ATV, and we built a movie cart out of it. They did a lot of filming in Chicago, like Chicago Fire, I think, and it was on all the sets. And it was electric ATV, we built a chassis around it, took 1/2-inch aluminum and CNC and just rigged it all full of holes, and this thing ended up being giant. The guy sat down inside of it and had to be super quiet. They mounted all the movie equipment, gym cranes to it, and everything else. That was pretty, about the weirdest thing I think we've done.
Yeah, it was definitely the phone booths, which is, we just finished them up, geez, 2-3 weeks ago. And to be completely honest with you, it was, so the unveiling, this grocery store has been in the family since the 40s, passed out from generation to generation. And seeing the family take pictures with the mayor of the town, all these townspeople coming around, and just seeing random people just look in awe of these phone booths was very touching, and it's something that I haven't had before. It was very neat to kind of step back, and my partner Jeff brought up the project. Motherfucker. Sorry, honey. I told her I wouldn't swear. And I did not.
We got Chip Foose. It's the ghost of Chip Foose, man.
Yeah. One day it clicked with me, the project. Like, I got super into it. The owner was, as soon as I sent an invoice, he'd be right there with a big check. So it worked out pretty well. Would I do it again? I don't know. It depends on the customer. But that was definitely the strangest project to take on.
For me, I gotta say it's 2 of them. One of them was the Motor City Hotel and Casino. I got to design the building, carpet, floors, ceilings, all kinds of fun stuff. But that whole exterior of that building was my concept and design. It was an $800 million project. It was really fun. But the one that I had the most fun was working with Pixar and Disney. Cars 1 and Cars 2. I designed all the graphics for the vehicles. And then I got a call from John Lasseter, and I worked for 2.5 years with Disney, and we built the Radiator Springs, the whole town of Cars Land at Disneyland. And it was, John Lasser just came up to me, he put his hand on my shoulder, and he says, I really need you here. He says, Cheech Marin is the voice of Ramon, but you are Ramon's talent. He says, while we're building this park, I want you to come in here anytime you want and just walk around, and when you see something that you think Ramon would have had something to do with, just do it. So for 2.5 years, I just walked around and I just had a notebook and a sketchbook, and I would do quick sketches and show it to them. They'd pull it out of the park, send it to the shop, we'd trick it out, and then they'd take it back. And it was an absolute blast. In the last 2 months of the whole project, I gathered 4 pinstripers, all friends of mine. And we worked in there 3 days a week for the last 2 months. Just walking through there and pinstriping everything we could. It was a blast.
You got your microphone ready? Does anybody have any questions?
The one thing I really need to know, I've got a little shop in California. In fact, I sent out you guys Christmas cards a couple years ago, and probably don't remember. David and his group was the only one I got a response back. But anyway.
Shots fired.
Yeah, anyway, I want to know, how do you go from working by yourself to actually getting somebody to come into the shop and help you get something done? Because I'm trying to get my shop off the ground. I mean, I've had it for a little while. I've got one customer's car, but I don't have, and I'm working full-time doing something else right now to pay the bills and trying to get it started, and I can't do it by myself. I don't know where to go from here. And I came here this week to try to make sure that I can get the shop done and fulfill my dream of my life, because otherwise I'm going to have to give up and walk away. So how do you get somebody to come in and help you actually get this shop off the ground?
Well, I'll go ahead and go first. I found, even with the success that I've had to get the team that I have, the most difficult part of this entire industry is finding young talent. People, and I'm not speaking across the entire board, obviously you've got a lot of our people here that like to work with their hands, but there's a big chunk of the generation that's right now that just doesn't have hardly any interest. I tried to start a college with, in Denver with Lincoln Tech. The Kindig Academy was almost 3 years old by the time we shut it down. We just didn't have a lot of success with getting the financing from the government and from the, to be able to add to the tuition for them to do a 6-week course at the Kindig Academy. We really gave it a shot. I did actually get one employee out of that whole deal, but weekend courses just wasn't going to cut even 10,000 square feet open with no enrollment. By far, at this point, and so I think I might be speaking across the board, generally, if you're a very busy, large shop, it's almost impossible if you have that much work to take on people that don't have that talent yet, taking them under your wing as an apprentice. And that, I think, was probably one of the bigger mistakes I've made in the last 26 years, was not making the time to bring those people in, because raw talent was very hard to find. You can find passion, and you can find somebody with skill. And as long as they have the passion, I'm finding that would have been probably a smarter move than saying, oh, we're just too busy to take on anybody that doesn't like it. So, good luck, because I mean you're certainly in the right state. California's got a lot of car culture. That is by far, I think, one of the hardest things for my shop. Starting in town.
One-man shop.
Vocations
Is this you?
that around even high schools would have shop classes and stuff like that. And it's sort of around even in Tennessee, it sort of went away a little bit. But you find you a young guy that really just wants to work on cars. And if he wants to, take him in training. Because my guys have been with me 20 plus years. And the newest guy that I've got, he grew up down the street from us. And he watched us come in and out of the park house. And I seen him working at a grocery store, bagging groceries. And I wanted to know, why are you here? And he said, because he seen me, and he said, I always loved your cars coming up and down the road. And I said, well, anyway, I hired him. And it was rough for a little bit, but now he's turned out to be really good but then again, I trained him, good or bad, I trained him the way that we do stuff, not the way, it's hard sometimes when you get somebody from another shop and there's certain ways that you want to do it, whether it's right or wrong, but it is your way. And it's better to have get some young guys in there and train them, because they're out there. Your hometown, I guarantee you's got some.
McPherson College is in Kansas, is hands down the best, I think. We've got a several guys that work for us that out in there. Adam, that's my main guy, he's been an advisor for a long time. It's more of a restoration school, but they keep dumping more money on the hot rod side of things, but it's a very, very good school. It's a accredited program, 4-year. They have a car show every year, things like that we support. I've got a lot of good young guys out there, and they're in Kansas. McPherson. Reach out to them because they're by far the best, I think.
One thing I want to mention too is, if you're a SEMA member, thank you. On the SEMA jobs page, there is an internship link on there. A lot of people don't know about it. They say it's very underused. So if you are looking for an internship, looking for people to intern at your shop, go to the SEMA website, go to the internship link, and turn something in on that. It will help you.
I would say too, just to reflect on networking, start talking to other shops. Like these guys said, we're all friends. We're not competition. We're all in here to help. My business, we're actually part of a group 20 with Roger Lee from Iron Brick Speed Custom. We took his class a few years ago, and it was a game changer. Small or big, it really made a big difference. It changed my life. I changed the way I look at things, and I don't stress as much. Of course, I still stress, but the more you link up with other business, like-minded people, you'll understand that we all share the same struggles. You're not in this alone. So when you're down on yourself saying, "Man, this sucks," I did it this week. So it's all about networking and getting out there and just talk to people. That was a big one for me.
Could be the way that you're running your business. I don't know how you're running it, but for us, we have a customer. They give us a deposit to start their project. So I'm working on their money, not mine. And once there's money in the bank, now I can pay employees to come in and help me. So, it may be just your relationship with your customer. Does he have enough money to give you a deposit, or you can bring in somebody to help you and not have to worry about, okay, here's your paycheck, here's your paycheck. And then as you're working, you bill the customer. But when you bill him, you take the money out of the account that he's got sitting there, and then he's refunding you.
I think that's a good thing to bring up. I think that's a good thing to bring up, Chip. I mean, so what do y'all, when it comes to billing, what have y'all found that works the best way to bill your customers? I mean, is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? Do you work off a deposit? How do y'all do it that you've found over the years work the best?
I bill monthly, and I try to keep 4 or 5 customers, and I try to bill each one of them where I've got a check coming in every week. And
You stagger it?
I stagger it, yeah. So I have a check coming in every week. If we start a car and we need to order a chassis or a motor or some big stuff, of course, I'm the one that starts with tires and wheels, and I build a car around that. So we'll get some money up front for parts money, but I get no labor up front. It's hard enough to work for it when you're getting paid, much less when you've already been paid for it. And so I'll get parts money, is what I'll do, and then I'll bill once a month. But if you've got 4 or 5 customers, you can always have that check coming in every week that you can make payroll with.
The hot rod shop side of it, we have a contract. It's important to make sure that everybody understands what they're paying for and how we're going to protect them and how we're going to protect our company as well. We work off of deposits. Typically, we get a couple $100,000 deposit. Average build cost for parts starts at about $200,000 to $250,000. Parts, just parts. Average build starts about $650,000 and goes well from there. We're in a closed, tight group here. We don't talk about that. Right? But the CF1's the same thing. $50,000 locks up the number of the car. As we start ordering parts, we do it at $150,000. I always work off deposits, so we basically set up an escrow for each of the projects, and we typically build anywhere from 16 to 22 cars at a time. And what we do is we basically put that money into a bank account. Every single day, every one of those people who works for me, anywhere from $85 to $125 an hour charged per person that's working on these vehicles. That gets deducted from the one account, gets put into the payroll account. Every 2 weeks, that's all done. As those accounts come down, or the escrow accounts come down of what they've deposited, we ask for another deposit. I won't work on a car if I don't have the money in my bank account. Because early on, I almost lost my shop, thinking that, oh, we have a handshake, we have a great report and everything, but then all of a sudden they start remodeling their basement and they can't pay me. And I've got 5, 6 guys waiting, and I got all these parts bills that are totaled up, and that no longer is that important because they're waiting for this big screen to come in or something stupid, right? It's not my problem. And I'm not a hobby shop, I was a business. And so I found out very early on to make sure that those contracts were in place and that they understood what the trade is, that I'm gonna provide a service and this is what our agreement is, you're gonna pay me and I'm going to make that happen. And I'm gonna make it happen very quickly. But this doesn't run on things. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things that these customers love. It's their hobby, but it's how we do it.
Well, it's, and I've always said it too, it's the very uncomfortable part about talking about money. Once we get the uncomfortable stuff away, now we're just gonna be creative and have fun building something together. We're gonna create something together, and we don't have to talk about the money stuff anymore. So, and much like Bobby says, typically I don't give any kind of a quote at all. I give a ballpark where I think the scale of the build might go, but it's just time and materials. Anybody that's doing a good job is working time and materials.
That's a journey of finding the right customer, right? I mean, we always were a handshake, working with guys like George and all that, because you get a good read on the lost people, and then you went through a couple of customers that you ventured out on, and then all of a sudden we had a contract. And that's, we don't do it for everybody, and then the first thing, Rick, is you gotta ask my wife Angie, because she's the one that I don't handle none of that. All the fun, like Dave said, it goes out quick when you're dealing with that, but having, like my wife Angie doing it, she's got a great relationship with each customer, and it's like, you're obviously, you're talking, if you're talking to her, you're talking to me. But some have money in the account because they want to, and then, we're basically just dealing with our repeat customers, and we've had pretty good luck. They're just good for it.
Well, you're like me though, Troy, you're not building, we build maybe 3 turnkeys a year.
Yeah,
Something like that, we're building how many?
A little closer to 15 to 20, depending on how many sequences.
Yeah, we might be 1 or maybe 2.
We're a little bit more personal, I guess, with our customers. So unlike you, it's more of a handshake, because I know these guys, but you can sure get in trouble a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, especially having enough employees to cause that much trouble.
Jesse, last answer?
Yeah, we bill the 1st and the 15th for the first probably 6 years. We just did monthly, and it just, the bank account just got scary low. So we would do the 1st and the 15th. Ever since we took the class, we put together a contract, like Dave was saying. It gives them that solid thing to read and understand what they're getting, and that was a big one for us, was getting a contract in place. And Roger, what's the term? Implied, when they do business with it, they know they're going in and they're dealing with someone with a good reputation, with a reputable business. They're not just like, yeah, work on your car, no problem, brother. Give me $5,000. They actually, you have a more, structured way of doing business, and I think that gives the customer a little bit more of a comfortability. Wow, these guys. As soon as we started firing contracts out, guys were like, this is awesome. I'm glad I'm with these guys.
It's a two-way thing. They know what to expect from y'all as well as what you're expecting from them. And it puts everybody on the same page. Chip? SEMA's opening the doors, so I take that to mean that they want us to stay out here, right, Scotty? Is that kind of what you're saying? So Chip, did you have a quick, how do you know?
We start out, it's a deposit of about $75,000, because now we're ordering a frame and a motor and transmission, and, the big components. But we keep an escrow account of about $35,000 for each car that we're building. And like I say, I'm working on their money, not mine. So as we build, we pull from that account, that pays the employees and all of our bills, and then customer refunds and keeps that escrow account at about $35,000. When we're finished with the car, their last bill may be $10,000. Well, we have $35,000 in the bank, so we take $15,000, they get their car, and they get a check for $20,000.
I want to thank y'all for coming today. If you would, please stand over. Give these guys a hand for taking time out.